a cavalcade of writers who dazzle with their wit, a mighty throng of seamen, awash with God and grit, the poets and the artists who venerate these shores, the tourists in their flip-flops, track sand into the stores, disciples of St. Peter, who worship by the sea, the wise Sicilian nonnas, reciting rosary, descendants of the English, the Finns and Portuguese, who greet each other daily and coexist in peace, the wealthy in their mansions, along a scenic drive, the minimum wage workers who struggle to survive, and don't forget the first ones, to walk these storied hills. Their whispers linger in the wind, their drumbeats echo still.
Tuossa jännin mä kohtasin, Paolo Vepi, oho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin, Paolo Vepi, oho. Suokon kirsikka
Well, welcome again. We're having some fun off stage here. I'm joined by Laura Ventimiglia, who is, in fact, fluent in many languages, at least Italian and English. What else?
That's it.
Yeah, all right, sufficient.
Don't give me more credit than
actually,
I deserve.
Well, you've got the Italian. If you got the Italian, you got the Sicilian. You got everything going. That's good. Why I bring that up immediately? I'm Wayne Soini. What do I do? I know English, so
I think you know more than English.
Somewhat, but we're today. By the way, Archie in Rockport, our favorite fan. He's wonderful. Archie has been a fan for years, almost longer than we've been on TV here. He's been a fan of ours. And Archie has, I would like to tell stories about Archie or with Archie, but so someday, Archie, you're going to be on TV and you'll tell your stories. They're good ones. But anyway, in the meantime, Laura has a particular historical bent, interest, and has followed through on it, which a lot of us don't do. We have the interest and the history advice, we look at something, but we don't follow through with the passion and writing the way she has with her own family and the Italian background. 2 books now? 3.
3.
Well, you can count 3. That's right. The Women of...
yes, that I just happened
the most recent one.
The most recent one, yes.
Women of...
The Women of Light, Betta's story. It takes place in 1726 in Terracini, Sicily.
And, believe it or not, from her work, is it one page is English, the other page is Italian?
Dual language, English and Italian.
One page after another, you can go along. And,
well, the first half
or is it all of the English?
It's all English and all Italian.
Okay.
I didn't think of doing it that way.
Well,
Next time.
Probably it would be harder to do that way because something would...
They don't match.
No,
yeah.
That's right.
They don't
so
match.
You did it right. They all match up. The whole story matches exactly with the whole story. That's good.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm delighted that, because this is the 3rd one. Now, there'll be a 4th and 5th we won't get into. You're still working on it.
Still working.
Amazing. And it can be either in Italian or English. And at her, she's very fluent in both. Actually,
well, wait a minute. I won't take credit for translating. My cousin in Italy translates, Diletta Bellotti, so I'll give her credit. She's translated all of the books.
Absolutely. And your connection, your link with these people, including the one who helped translate, goes back. You didn't learn Italian when you were small.
No.
You didn't learn Italian when you were bigger.
When I was bigger.
You started learning Italian?
After I started traveling to Italy, when we met relatives there that we didn't know we had, living relatives in Renazzo and Dodici Morelli. So we traveled there for the first time to meet them in 2014, and I started studying in 2015.
So, I mean, looking out there, people that say, Oh, I wish I'd studied in high school. I wish I'd learned English, some other language than English, and a foreign language. It interests me. I wish I had, and I'm 30 already, and I'm 40 already, and I can't do it. You could say no from living example and experience. You can learn a foreign language from scratch in older years, and I'd like you to think about doing that because it opens a whole new door, didn't it, for you?
It did, yeah, a whole different way of thinking.
And eating.
But I find myself a lot of times thinking first in Italian. So I'll start writing, or actually my phone and my computer are set to both Italian and English. And sometimes I'm typing in Italian and it's correcting it to English, and sometimes the reverse. But
I like that.
It changes the way you think, both grammatically, with syntax, but just in general, I think how you think about the world, at least for me.
Oh, I agree. I've heard people say if they have another language, a different language, the thinking process, the labeling that they give to things differs from English in such a way that it amazes and surprises them, even on simple things, simple objects. I'll use one on Finnish that anyone out there who knows Finnish would be, it'd be plain Jane and plain vanilla. They already know this, but in Finnish, you would say something that is mine, like I have a house. Minulla on talo. It's not I have a house. It would be on me is a house.
Yeah.
And that's the thought. And really, in terms of possessing something, you really, in English, I think mine. We incorporate it into ourselves,
right,
our property. But in Finland, they think separately, a distance, a red line, that's that, I'm here. On me is a house, or on me is some money, or on me is a car, but it's not me. Right. It's not an extension of myself. It's on me for now, really. Yeah. And at some point it'll not be near me or on me. And that's a language thing, common everyday language expression in Finland that to me has some philosophical impact.
Right.
Don't want to get too much bogged down into our language stuff because in English,
and Italian and Finnish and
this program
Spanish
that we have here, we're not joined by Mia
or Sal. Mia. So Mia Millefolier. Millefolier.
I want you to know, and Laura will be able to explain, that there was a program at the library recently, and Mia introduced those that attended, which were about 150 or 200. It was a packed. No, it was a packed auditorium.
It wasn't 200, or the fire department would have been kicking us out. They would have been booting us out.
Okay.
But without saying it too loud, because the fire department's just around the corner. There were probably about 120, maybe 120, 125,
it was
in a room that
packed.
holds 100. Yeah.
Everybody wanted to attend it and hear it. It was a program about, I'm not going to say Sicilians, it was Italians, right? Sicilians, Italians. During World War II. And indeed, there was a whole lot of things that I learned about. I've studied history, but this was all new to me. And Mia had studied, researched this. I understand she explained from the beginning when she talked. In other words, she would have been here today if she could have
Except she's on a plane to California to visit her son.
So what are you going to do? We'll talk we'll talk about it favorably.
Yeah.
And she has explained at the beginning. She's not a professional. She's not an expert, but she did research this, and you can too. I mean, always I'm saying this to people. Can I write? Yes, you can write. Can I talk on something? Yes, you can. If you research and pay attention and try, you can get there. And you can fill a room. And you can interest them for a long time. So
Right.
tell about this program.
Well,
tell about your overall umbrella of other.
So
Yeah.
let's start. We'll start first with Mia's program on Saturday, and then I'll get to the bigger umbrella, which it was part of. But so during World War II, I think generally people know that the Japanese were interred into basically, well, internment camps that are basically prisoner camps.
Yeah.
And
You couldn't leave.
They couldn't leave. They
And there were guards.
They were incarcerated, basically. Yes. They had, numbers, and just as if you looked at a prison that we had, today, maybe a little bit softer. But we all know that basically about the Japanese. But surprisingly, after the proclamation that interred the Japanese, the next day was one that interred the Germans, and then the following day was one that interred the Italians.
This was all happening during the week of Pearl Harbor.
Right. So
lots of other things in the headlines. Underneath on page 17,
right.
The Italians were, let's use Italians because that was the top.
Yeah. So I think, so little is known about the Germans, little is known about the Italians, and Mia has ancestors who were affected by the enemy. It's called the enemy alien registration act. Hold on. People were considered enemy aliens, and they were branded as such. So Mia had ancestors, my husband's family had ancestors that fell into that category right here in Gloucester. Now when the Italians, when information about the Italian internment started coming out, it's really well known on the West Coast in California, because that was right next to Pearl Harbor. So there, beginning probably without my glasses in, I can't see the year, but let's see.
Let me try.
Oh, I've got my glasses right here. I just have to actually put them on. In 1990, so let's say the mid to the late 1990s, this began to be a really hot topic. So one of the best books I ever read was The Unknown Internment. So if you're interested in this for Italians, this is a really great source.
Make sure that people know, Unknown Internment is about Italian Americans and not just Gloucester.
Right. Okay. So I think that's the whole point with Mia's work, is that if you research this or look into it, you're going to learn or will hear more or read more about what happened to California, because that was where it was most obvious to the nation. However, there were also so let me just say, there are 3 books that are great if you're interested.
Hold this one.
The Unknown, Una Storia Segreta, and
now, despite the title,
Branded.
Is it in English?
Yes.
Okay.
They're all in English. But I find that one the most helpful in the.
That's The Unknown Internment.
So
here
are 3 good
of the
sources.
Relocation of Italian Americans during World War II by Stephen Fox.
Right. And then, so those are really what you might say are somewhat academic, all right, serious. But there's a novel that's just come out, Beneath the Sicilian Stars, that chronicles a family, part of which went to America, part of which stayed in a little town in Sicily. And at the beginning of World War II, and this whole thing, they go back and forth between the 2 families. But the father in the United States gets arrested, gets put into a camp, and one of the things that happens is they get moved from place to place to place. So he went from, let's say he was in Chicago to Indiana, and then down to Texas, and all over the country, wherever they were, and they kept them moving. So I think this book gives a more personal view of it. But again, none of this mentions Gloucester. So what Mia's interest brought us to Gloucester. And she started a project called Branded, Enemy Aliens, that tells the stories that's intended to tell the stories of people in Gloucester who experienced this here. Now, there are two ways, I think, that Italians here experienced it. One is, if you were not a naturalized citizen, you had to register with the Department of Justice. So you had to register, and you were given a certificate of identification. And that certificate of identification was almost like a passport. So my husband Frank's ancestors had their enemy alien registration passport. So it has their name, their fingerprint. It's stamped with the seal from the Department of Justice, and it has an alien registration number, and it has their birth date, when they would, all kind of sort of basic information. And this was particularly tough on people who lived down the fort, because they couldn't come and go freely. They had to, if we go to other countries, or in other countries, you always have to have your papers on you. So the certificate of identification was their paper, and they had to carry it around. They could be stopped at any time. It could be checked, but primarily coming and going from the fort, because everything they needed, they could survive with down the fort. The other way, though, it impacted Italians, and again, think about it, Italian Americans, Italians, if you weren't naturalized. So in one family, as Mia discussed and talked about on Saturday, one family could be sitting at the table. Mother, father, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, aunts, cousins.
Remember, she's talking about an Italian family, so this is
it's a big table. It's a big table. And some of them would be enemy aliens, and some of them wouldn't be. Some of them weren't.
Even in the same family, around the same table, live together, some enemy aliens needing the certificates, and others, they're citizens, right? They're born.
And on top of that, you had some parents who were enemy aliens whose sons were off to war.
Oh,
they were born in this. Go ahead.
I only know them as Italians. I don't know whether they're Sicilians. The Mondellos, including Mondello, who did the shoe repair, cobbler. Mondello was overseas in the military, as was his brother. Yeah. And his mother at least was Italian speaking at home. That was she talked Italian. I don't know whether she was a citizen or not. So I don't know.
So she could have been at that table.
Even with, as you said, here you are in this country, but you've got the card, and your son is off in war in the Navy or the Army and somewhere fighting for.
And so then it goes even deeper than that kitchen table and going off to war. It affected the fishing industry. So for Italians, as I understand it from Mia, none of the Italians then were allowed to fish or on the wharf. And
explaining why, I think she did explain why.
Yeah.
Oh,
you want me to explain why? Well, because like the Japanese in California, you read about this, they also couldn't have radios. They couldn't have anything that would signal they were helping the enemy.
The sense of it was there's a coastline, and if the Germans were going to come over, or the Italians in a fleet, or one of those blimps, the dirigibles, they would come over to the coast first.
Right.
So that they needed their allied Italians and the fort
to get them in.
Signal them to land in 10-Pound Island or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that was the theory behind people don't go out on fishing boats where we can't see you and keep control over you. Don't go near the wharf, which is where you can do the semaphore or whatever it is. And this was legitimate. I mean, it was an actual regulation that was policed and enforced, where people who ordinarily earned a living and a good living and were very content helping the American economy and people eat. That was disturbed. That was interrupted. And Mia explained it.
Right, and so Italian fishermen could no longer fish. They lost their livelihood, which had a drastic impact. In fact, we heard from two people in the audience, not necessarily. I think one during the presentation and one afterwards, that it was so devastating that some of these men either took their own life or tried to take their own life because they no longer could support their families. They had been raised generation after generation as fishermen, as men. No, I'm not going to say head of the household, because in Italian families, in the Italian family structure, it's a dual-headed household.
You got it.
Right. Each
They
with
were a big
their own.
battle. That's World War III.
But anyway, so they just lost their identity. They lost their purpose. And so there were, quite a few attempts, and some successful, of people take their own lives. So what Mia has done is tried to collect these stories from different fishing families and from different people in Gloucester, because it did affect Gloucester differently. And it's not very well known. So what, supported in part by the Awesome Gloucester Foundation, and through the Down the Fort archives and documentary on Facebook. So if you have Facebook, you can find this easily, but we'll leave it to go up. But right now she has 2 short stories out, and the intent is to write one more. But they're two stories about families, 2 families or maybe more. I think it brings in a couple of families.
This is online?
It's online, okay. Yes. It's not printed, yes. It's Down the Fort, telling the stories of Gloucester's past. So there's a link here, but I know even if it comes up while we're talking as a slide, it's going to be hard. But if you went to the Facebook page, Down the Fort page, and did a search for branded aliens or enemy aliens, it would bring you to this link. So
she's not only been researching and, of course, talking, she's also been writing, and there's more writing to come.
There is. And if I can just add one more thing to sort of hit it home, bring it home to the East Coast. There were, in fact, 3 what were called prisoner of war camps that later included units of Italian service units, that's what they were called, in Boston. So we had 3 internment camps in Boston. One was Camp McKay in Dorchester on Columbia Point that first housed Italian POWs, but then was turned over to enemy aliens. Fort Andrews on Peddocks Island in Boston Harbor. And then the East Boston Detention Center was used for enemy aliens. So there aren't any books written about the East Coast, but it certainly was happening. Now, where are we time-wise? Okay,
we're doing fine.
Okay, so really all of that leads into, if this is a good time to lead into it. Okay, so
there's an umbrella organization starting. It's just starting. It's quite a pioneer effort. Go right ahead.
Wayne calls it the Peach Organization.
Peach.
But
it's pronounced Peach, but it's going to be different. Go ahead.
It's going to be. We are working on a different name that's shorter and more catchy. But really, right now, what we're doing, and the we is Mia Millefolier, Sal Zarilli, whom I'm sure all or most of you have heard of. Sal lives in Rockport, grew up with Down the Fort connections, and he founded Awesome Gloucester, and then later Awesome Rockport. And that's a national program where people, and it's very popular, but just in case, as I understand it, people donate, say, $50 a month, and it builds up a pool of money that then the foundation, the board members for each of them, award mini grants. So every month, Awesome Gloucester and Awesome Rockport separately award $1,000 grants to people who locally are working on projects that benefit the community. And Mia's was one of those, but with Sal and Mia and I found very recently in our work together over the past couple of years that we have similar interests, our projects overlap, and out of a conversation grew preserving Cape Ann's ethnic heritages. So that's the name that's the Peach name we're trying to come up with.
Peach. That's right.
Right.
Good.
But the intent here is to take the work that Sal and Mia and I have been doing around our own Italian or Sicilian ethnic cultures and expand it to include and collaborate with all of the ethnic cultures on Cape Ann. In a way, it's what we were all involved in the Gloucester 400, the three of us, and it's very similar to that, where in the Gloucester 400 plus anniversary in 2023, 2023, it was 1923 that the monument went up for the 1898 war, But really what we were trying to do with that project and that anniversary, particularly the Our People, Our Stories project, was to garner stories across ethnic groups and preserve them and save them, get them down on paper, get them on video, get them in some kind of a digital format. So in some way, unintentionally, it's an extension of that because that's where our interests lie. Yep. So preserving Cape Ann's ethnic cultural heritage. Now, because of that, and we want that to happen in a number of different ways, you know, public art, written stories, oral stories, you know, performing arts, all different ways. But this is a good segue to the Cape Ann Finns.
Well, we picked up on your, made a wonderful impression, the talk, picked up on that idea of, you could present it in different ways. One is a talk or a panel discussion. And in fact, the Cape Ann Finns is working on the idea of a panel discussion where we will describe the first 100 years. The first 100 is the hardest. The first 100 years.
Are there any more after the first 100?
First 100 years, 1870 to 1970, when the Finns first arrived, and then on from there, when it was like a bell-shaped curve. There were very few, and then there were very many, and then they still scattered and went and intermarried, and so the Finns from Finland were at a maximum around 1900, 1910, and then there was plenty of Finnish descendants, but not so many from Finland itself. But we'll be discussing the interaction between the American culture in Gloucester and Rockport, especially Lanesville and Pigeon Cove, and vice versa, the impact on Finland with these Americanized Finns, increasingly Americanized Finns. But tell others, as you did on Saturday, when Laura spoke as well, they're interested in any ethnic and cultural group, not just Italians or Portuguese or Finns or even you go from there. And though I think this would be the hardest group to research and get together, the indigenous tribes, Native American. Remember, if you take the history of Cape Ann, many thousands of years, there were indigenous people living here.
Right.
And a couple hundred, well, you can go up to 400 now, is it? We guys came who are in the studio here. But basically
we guys came in. What's the name of the studio? 1623.
1623. So basically there's thousands of years of culture with the indigenous. And I've associated it, I think from a map that I saw in the 1600s, that I've associated with Annisquam as a settled, continuous, all year round kind of a place, which was, it was, remember that big cove, Lobster Cove, and then on both sides there's land, and it's buffered from the ocean storms and the blizzards, and it has plenty of trees and springs, water, so that the natives could live in some degree of, for that era, some degree of comfort and feel like they would survive, even the winter in Cape Ann, in that area around Lobster Cove. And also, summertime, Wingashiek Beach, there's a lot of, similar to today, there's people who come for the summer to Gloucester and Rockport. And they come from Maine down or Cape Cod up and so forth and visit. And it was a diverse group, more diverse than we can yet reconstruct accurately. But that's just an aside. There's others that somebody out there probably, and I hope, will passionately adopt researching and talking and presenting on in any way.
Anyway, so
pictorially or dioramas or anything.
In artwork, you know, sculptures, paintings.
Yeah.
One of the, so, you know, and when I was trying to think, it's impossible to make a list of all of the ethnic groups. And I say that's impossible because there are so many, it's hard for any one person. And we need to get better at figuring that out. But for example, you know, during the 400th plus anniversary, there were some Brazilians that did some stories and had some events during that anniversary celebration. We know the Portuguese here have a lot of, they've been here a long time and have a lot of traditions. And they even had their own fishing fleet before the Italians, you know?
Oh, man,
I know, I don't know if, but, so if anybody out there, we'll say this again too, but if anybody out there in any ethnic group is interested in working with others, either hopefully within your own ethnic group, but connecting to this umbrella organization, as we see ourselves be, you know, initiating and helping to support and connect with other ethnic groups. So if you are interested, you can feel free to contact either Mia, Sal, or myself, and we'll leave this for, hopefully this will run at the end of the show, so you'll be able to have more time to write it down. But these are our email addresses, so please feel free to do that. But what I wanted to get back and pick up on something that you said, Wayne, is that one of the things that we're doing with this project is distinguishing between the immigrant experience and the ethnic experience. And I don't know, it's one of those things that I was conscious of, but I don't know that I ever separated it out to look at it very differently. I just sort of lumped it all into the same, you know, same bag. But what we've, you know, defined it as, and it's not us, it's just the initiative gives attention to both the immigrant experience, which is the journey to America, the challenge of adaptation to America, and then the pursuit of belonging. I mean, there's a whole bunch of literature on the process of assimilation. When people come into this country, how do they assimilate? How do they blend in, become part of the community, part of the, and how are they accepted? And then, and it also includes the ethnic experience, which is the enduring practice, traditions, and expressions of identity that shape the daily life across generations. And so to me, to separate, and not that they're separated, they're connected, but to look at them somewhat separately, to me, allows us to go deeper into each of those parts of the immigrant and ethnic, of the cultural heritage that we have. What we hope to be looking at are family structures, because, you know, those, not only are they different today in an American society, but even within an American society, there's still differences related to, I think, ethnic backgrounds, cultural traditions, you know, those times that people were in the kitchens with their nanas or their grandmothers, cooking or learning recipes. I will say that I was very young. I helped make the pasta, but as it got rolled out, my job was to pick up, when I say young, I'm talking like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8. My job was to pick up the pieces as my grandmother would cut them, pick up the extras, roll them back up in a ball so she could, you know, roll out the next. Well, so half of those pieces made it, and half of them were eaten raw. It was delicious. And then we went, and when it was laid out on my grandmother's dining room table, which I now have in my house, it was laid out to dry. Well, you'd see a broken piece here and a broken piece there because we'd be in...
And you'd be glad when you saw it.
We would be. And then, of course, the languages and dialects are so different, and the religious practices and spiritual practices, and just the lifestyle customs in general. So that's like a real big, broad range of aspects and perspectives that we're hoping to look at. But I wanted to really emphasize the difference between the ethnic and the immigration.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, we've had in Cape Ann Finch, for example, we've had a member who was especially interested in tracing out, obtaining images, photographs, or even drawings of the churches that the Finns attended, typically Finnish language services. And it changed through the years. I think there were ultimately 7 or 8 in Rockport and Gloucester. And that is an example of taking a slice of the, manageable for one person, to a slice of the ethnic pie and developing it in detail. And then you've got something that can eventually, with the other pieces of the pie are assembled, you've got a whole big picture of the saunas, the churches, the whatever gardens or farming that people did on the side in Finnish houses. And it's all because one person catches fire and really is interested in one slice. So Laura's not saying to you, come aboard and then you have to deal with all of these things. No, come aboard and be interested in what you're interested in, filling out. And in the course of time, the project will develop a larger picture.
So, but talking about the churches and the religious things, in your book, I think it's your latest published book, Murder in Rockport,
Massachusetts.
One of the
still available online.
Wait a minute, still available. Is it at the bookstore too?
It's at the bookstore
too. And of course, it's at the library.
And it's at the library.
It's a newly opened, fabulous library, reopened library.
Well said.
But one of the pieces that struck me in your book was the 2 churches, the Finnish church, and was it the Swedish church?
Well, it was known as the Swedish Evangelical Church, but it was attended largely by Finns because some Finns have intermarried with Swedes, but also there was plenty of Swedish-speaking Finns in the country whose home language would be Swedish in their house, even in Finland. It's just always been true in Finland. There's 5% Swedes and 95% Finnish speakers. So if some of them came to this country, there would be a church, but you don't want to go to the Finnish service and hear Finnish spoken when your native, normal, fluent home tongue is Swedish. So they did a Swedish evangelical church.
But it wasn't just the church, but it was the way you described them in the congregation and the role the congregation played within the community. I thought that was really...
Yeah, well, even the church almost becomes a character within, a character figure within characters, human beings, within that. So much so that it has a presence in the book that's kind of memorable. Yes, to me, when I was researching it, yes.
Well, I like that description of the church and the parish as almost its own character. Okay. So, I just sort of picked up on that. That made me think of it when you're talking about the church, different churches within the same ethnic group as one particular area of focus. So some of the things that we hope to do are collect oral histories and family stories, which, Mia has started. And, and we've done a lot of them. We've started working with people through, again, going back to 2023 and the Our People, Our Stories commemorative project, and I'm thinking of Antonetta Calabrese, who's the woman who does the fabulous work on the boulevard with the generous gardeners, who that led her to write her story and publish her book. But also visual art and cultural art in traditional and contemporary forms, and public art. That's really also and people probably have noticed the murals. There's now 9 murals between Rockport and Gloucester, funded and supported through the Awesome Gloucester and Awesome Rockport Foundations and others. But that's a form of public art that preserves, again, pieces of a community's tradition. I thought you were going to jump in and say something. No, and then rituals and traditions and then, of course, performance and storytelling, public performances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you get the picture. And
Yeah.
again, happily, there's 3 possible people to email or phone.
Yep.
And one of them is Laura, and there's the other 2. And we'll put that on at the end of the program again for people who want to contact them. Say, just get the ball rolling, and you can ask your questions of the, the project and see if it matches up with anything that you otherwise would be doing alone, stranded, and independent with no encouragement. It's better. Thank you.
True. I think so. And I'm looking at the time. We have plenty of time. But the one last thing that I would just say is, Mia's project, branded Aliens, is the first project underneath this umbrella of preserving Cape Ann's cultural heritages.
Right.
So,
and more to come of that.
More to come of that. In fact, one of the things we've got coming up now is the Face of Local Prayer.
Okay.
So, anyway, all right?
Good.
Thank you so much. Well, you're going to take, and now to Wayne. Take it away.
There's I just learned this week from taking a book out of the Sawyer Free Library, which I'd recommend to everybody. Sawyer Free Library now reopened with a magnificent collection of books that you could just go up and look through the shelf and find something interesting. A new book by Zadie Smith.
Ooh.
Zadie Smith. And some people would know the name and others wouldn't. But that doesn't stop me from picking up the book Zadie Smith, The Wife of Williston. Well, as soon as I started reading a few lines, I said, I want to take this home, which I did. Here it is. And you can do it too because it's a library book. There'll be a time that you want it. Zadie Smith wrote, this is a unique book. She's written several books, many of them bestsellers. But this one is unique because it's a product of a contest that she forgot she entered.
Oh.
What happened is this I just learned. How many boroughs in London? There are 32 boroughs in London.
Oh.
You didn't know that, did you?
I did not.
Right? There's 32 boroughs in London. And one of them is called Brent. And Brent is the primarily, as she describes it, primarily immigrant, low, not highly assessed for cultural value. People are there for some Jamaicans and so on. She's half Jamaican.
Okay.
The Brent people are not. It's probably like London's Lanesville, right?
Yeah.
Not first thing that you think of when in the art world or whatever. So somebody called her up and said, Zadie, you're an author. We want to enter the Brent in the contest. What contest is that? And it was called the London's Borough of Culture 2020 competition. And what it is once a year, this was the 2020 one, once a year some group of people, judges, make an award, and they say, one borough.
Wow.
And within that borough, they pick one person to represent that borough, to represent essentially London's art world and creative people. And Zadie, when she admits it right in here, chances of Brent ever winning that, no, put my name in, said that's fine. She forgot about it for a year, and then started getting emails that Brent had won the competition, and she was the one in Brent who was picked to be the
rep.
One who would write something for the competition.
Oh, so she had she written it before the competition?
She had no idea. No, so in some way or other has to represent or reflect or mirror Brent in some way. So she now suddenly is forced to sit down and think about what can she write that justifies her, being an author in Brent and talks about Brent in some way. And it's totally unexpected, from this content. And this is a book.
Wow.
And what she did is take a rather famous literary thing by Geoffrey Chaucer, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, which many of us had to read in college or even high school. Canterbury Tales. And one of the Canterbury Tales is a famous character called the Wife of Bath. And the Wife of Bath in Chaucer's story is it tells a tale, but she was married 5 times, and she describes her different marriages and husbands in a very amusing way to herself and to anybody that's reading or listening to her. Zadie said, "That's what I'll do." So the cover, if you can you detect what these are? These rings?
So yes, the 5 wedding rings.
5 wedding rings. So she has the wife of Williston, which is in Brent, and describing her 5 different husbands. And only one was any good. So they're wonderful stories about scoundrels and son rascals, and she tells it in a funny way, not complaining way, not a grievance. So and although normally I don't go for much about poetry, she tells this in rhyming couplets. Yeah, like rhyming spear
so
and
how about
fear
reading a bit?
Well, you give me a page.
Okay, I'm going to say page 126.
Okay, 120.
Wayne does this as his book events, which I love.
Okay.
Give me a page, any page.
Actually, this one
won't work.
Is too far down because it's into. She also at the end just for fun. She attached Chaucer's actual.
Okay.
So I don't want to read Chaucer.
Okay, no. Let's go to 46.
46 will work. 46 will work. Okay, 46. This is just one of the. It's a play. I'm sorry, I didn't even. It's a play told in a poem form with rhyming lines.
Oh my gosh!
And it's not a book novel with paragraphs and everything. It's okay. Here's an example. One of the characters, and often she goes into black dialect or Jamaican.
Okay.
So I'll try to see if it. Oh Lord Almighty, when I think back to them days when I was young, I can't do nothing but smile. I love to remember that sweet May time. Now I'm in September. I'm still glad I had my time in the sun. Now I'm old. A little swear word here.
Oh, you can say it. Oh, I don't know. Can you say it on public TV?
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
But suffice it to say it rhymes. And of course, if you read it, you have to respect the fact that there's some vulgarity or profanity in there. Intentionally funny, hilarious. It's just listening to it is funny. So anyway, funny, hilarious, dialect, rhyming, play that you can read. Probably can read it in a couple of hours, because it has been played on stage.
Okay.
So it goes for about a couple of hours if you put it into on stage in a theater.
And if it's in her dialect, it doesn't sound like it would be a typical English dialect.
No.
I don't know. Is that a fair thing to say?
True.
To call it that?
True.
Okay.
And so anything you can recognize as something different, very different, and it'll be different. Even if you've read everything else by Zadie Smith, you'd say, this is different from anything I read by Zadie Smith. So it's an unusual book, and it's one that's available in the library. Also available in the library, though I've got to say in this instance, it's totally different than a play or rhyming couplets. This is a book by Irvin Yalom, Irvin Irvin Yalom, Yalom, and in psychotherapy circles, he's in his 90s now. In psychotherapy circles, Irvin Yalom is like the dean, the man who's our Sigmund Freud kind of thing, person who's very insightful and charges like crazy for his services, or else gives it free. If it's somebody who kind of needs him and he detects that, and come on, it's all right. Instead of $1,000 an hour, I'll just donate it. And he ends up telling stories that has a title of Love's Executioner, which to me is a title that would turn off anybody. and not be very interesting.
Yeah.
How can you justify love's executioner? But what he's talking about is those impulses or influences within ourselves that block or stifle loving other people. And so love's executioner is what you want to target in any kind of psychotherapy that you do with him. And it's wonderful because his stories are really, I think there's 6 or 7 case studies or stories about the people. They told their stories. You know, I introduced myself and so on, and she sat down and what it looked like. He's almost a novelist guy. He has written novels, but this is not a novel. This is nonfiction, although he's taken care to disguise the, so it isn't, you know, so nobody's saying, you printed my
story,
my life history in your book. But his patient's confidentiality was respected, and he would do that way. So there's some substitution of he tries to depict the patient as accurately as possible without saying they were a World War II veteran. You might say they were soldiers in Vietnam or whatever you want. It's something that will be the equivalent that people can identify with or see. You're dealing with a troubled person in this way. Those 6 or 7 people that he talks about, you and I can relate to, people out there can relate to, because they're normal people.
Well, we hope we can relate to. We hope we're normal enough to be able to relate to them.
Yes, the good one. I like that. And the idea would be, often these psychological things are fascinating, but they're you know, it's the person who can't step on a crack in the sidewalk and just is unbelievably obsessed with the fact that they stay in the house, and it's all kinds of what I would call extreme. And of course for them that has a lot of meaning and can be unfolded. So, but these are people with ordinary people with ordinary problems, but do need and can use and find value in Urban Yolam's talking with them. And he develops and it unfolds so much so that you see, I believe, might be my hysteria, I believe that I could find in these 6 or 7 people something relevant to me. You know, even though they were presenting different kinds of issues and different degrees of depression or anxiety than more extreme perhaps than I, but it just has a relevance that is helpful for me to read it at a distance than to be there. I have to go through all this multi-weeks of discussion. One thing he always asked, it fascinated me, that this genius really of psychotherapy always asked everybody, so maybe ask your friends or ask yourself, what he sees people toward the afternoon. Okay. So they've already gone through waking up, the morning, breakfast, lunch, and even more than that, sometimes work, if they have a job and so on. This, at some point in the afternoon, he meets them and he says, tell me what you did all day, from the start to the finish. Yeah. And he gets a lot of information, useful information from that as the person describes it. Now, I'll exaggerate because he doesn't have one like this in his book, but it would be, well, I got up and I turned on the television, and after an hour I made myself some coffee, and then I went back to bed for a nap. And if you had that kind of a life, I think it would be meaningful for him to hear that, than ask his routine questions that are on a questionnaire, like what's the level of highest education you know, and what's your religion? Did you have a mother and father you knew, or biological? Great, but what did you do this morning? What did you do today? That seemed to be innocent and simple enough to get into accurately, and yet you know, hey, that's what I did today. And I've done that to myself. So at the end of the day, what did I do today? What did I do? And you get something out of reviewing what you did, and what you think, gee, I didn't do that today. I was supposed to do it. I wanted to do it. I didn't get to it. And it does lead, well, the question for him and his patients or clients, it's insightful. It gives him a lot of insight. But even I was just thinking, as you ask yourself that question, what did I do at the end of the day? What did I do today? Yes.
I know, and without asking myself that question, I know that there's been times when I go through a checklist. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. But then for the things I wanted to do that I didn't do, why? Like, what drew me away from my to-do list for the day?
Oh, that's worth investigating, exploring.
Yeah.
You can do that on your own. You don't have to do it with your Irving Yellow. By the way, I spoke with him. I called him. He's in California. I spoke with him for probably 5 minutes. And there was a friend out there in California that I thought could utilize his, and had the money to utilize his services. But I wanted to break the ice with him and learn about it. And he was, again, in his 90s. So he says, I don't do this anymore.
But you amazed me by, did you just pick up the phone and call
I don't know how I even got his number, but yes. And he said, I don't do this anymore. But my daughter does.
Oh, no kidding.
So he's got a daughter who does the same, trained in his method. Probably uses the same question. What did you do today?
What did you do today?
Yeah.
Good.
How I spent my day. Anyway, this is in the I gotta say.
Hold it still. Hold it up and hold it still.
Conditionally, Love's Execution by Irving Yellow is in the library, but I noticed on the online when I looked it up, it said 0 available of 1 copy. I don't know what that means. I think it means we have a copy, but you can only use it in the library or something. But that's not true.
Because you've got it right.
As soon as you, no, this is my own.
That's your own.
But this is available if you shake the tree in the library. You will find that they say in the Noble system.
The Noble system.
We only have 1 copy, and you can only read it in Salem. But we can get it from Boston or Newburyport or whatever it is, another system. We can get it, and you can borrow it. It just take a week or 2.
Yeah.
Just be patient with it. And so, yes, you can get this. Also, he's written other books, including one that has the same subtitle, Other Tales of Psychotherapy. I think it says, you have to look it up on your smartphone. It's something like Mama's Dilemma or something.
Oh.
Mama's Dilemma and Other Tales of Psychotherapy, which I think is equally good. I'm guessing, because this is the only book I read, not the other one. But the other one is available in the library. 2 copies available out too. So I said, oh, maybe they could try that one for size.
To get some of his,
the same basis, case histories or 6 or 7 patients, and tell their stories in an intriguing way. And that's all. So those are the 2 books I'm recommending this week. And I don't know what else to say. We've got 1 minute we can talk further. What did you do today?
Okay, let's see. Now wait a minute. It's been what did I do today? Oh, I started out with I always like to wake up slow.
Yeah.
At my computer.
Yeah.
Which can be dangerous because then I can get stuck there. And then,
moving away.
Breakfast, get ready for the day, chiropractor appointment. I went to Double Exposure because I had an order there. And then I went home and had coffee with my husband and a friend of his. And you have 24 seconds to say what you did.
That's it. And then you came here, and we're saying goodbye because it's almost time for.
I know.
See you next time. Thank you for being here with us. Archie, now you can take a nap. It was nice being with you again. I hope that you will come again. This was a fun time. All right. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Wayne.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Tuolla Lontoossa Jennin mä kohtasin. Alo Verbi, oho. Hän on neidosten joukossa kaunihin. Alo Verbi, oho. Suukon kirsikka silmät niin mustat kuin yö. Ja ne loisti kuin tuikkiva tähti